You know that feeling when you wake up on a Sunday morning, look in the mirror, and think, I'm just done. It's not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, or the kind of emptiness that a vacation can fill. This is what Jean-Paul Sartre and other existentialist philosophers call existential exhaustion, a bone-deep fatigue that comes from living the same predictable patterns day after day. You're not just tired of your routine, you're tired of being yourself, of carrying the weight of your own consciousness through another monotonous week. This isn't your typical mental fatigue that disappears after a good night's rest or a Netflix binge. We're talking about a profound weariness that seems to seep into your very soul, making even the simplest decisions feel overwhelming. You might find yourself going through the motions, brushing your teeth, checking emails, making small talk, while feeling completely disconnected from your own life. Jean-Paul Sartre dropped a philosophical bombshell that completely flipped our understanding of existence on its head. While Descartes famously declared, I think, therefore I am, Sartre asked the uncomfortable question, but who exactly is doing the thinking? When you try to imagine yourself, you picture your body, your face, your memories. But here's the kicker. If those things are what you're imagining, then who's the one doing the imagining? This simple question reveals a mind-bending truth about consciousness that most people never consider. Yet it holds the key to understanding why you feel so disconnected from yourself. Sartre introduced this concept called transcendence, which basically means that reality is way more complex than our limited human consciousness can fully grasp. Think of a banana. You can see it from different angles, but you'll never access its complete essence. There are microscopic organisms living on it, atomic structures you can't perceive, and it's constantly changing at a molecular level. Your consciousness is like an artist that takes all this overwhelming information and creates simplified mental representations, snapshots of reality that your brain can actually handle. This process happens so fast that you don't even realize you're constantly creating a simplified version of the world around you. Here's where it gets really wild. Your consciousness works like a flashlight, illuminating objects in a dark room. But what happens when that flashlight turns toward its own source? When you try to examine yourself, your transcendent being made up of trillions of cells, countless experiences, and infinite complexity gets reduced to simple mental objects. Your name, your appearance, your life story. Sartre realized that consciousness and ego are completely separate entities, with consciousness coming first. This means the central point of your existence isn't your ego or your carefully constructed identity, but rather this mysterious something that observes, feels, and experiences everything else. It's like you're watching yourself perform in a play you never auditioned for, reading lines you don't remember memorizing. The scary part, this existential exhaustion doesn't discriminate. It can hit the successful CEO just as hard as the struggling college student, the devoted parent, just as much as the single professional. Society tells us that productivity equals worth, that busyness equals purpose. But what happens when that formula stops working? When you've checked all the boxes, good job, nice apartment, social media presence, yet still feel like you're sleepwalking through your own existence. That's when you realize there's something deeper at play, something that challenges everything we've been taught about identity and self-worth. Here's where things get really interesting and a bit uncomfortable. What if everything you think you know about yourself is actually just a collection of social masks you've been handed since birth? Society has this sneaky way of shaping our ego from day one, telling us who we should be based on our gender, family background, economic status, and cultural expectations. Your parents dress you in certain colors, teachers reward specific behaviors, and employers value particular skills, all while you're unconsciously absorbing these external definitions of worth. Before you know it, you're not living your life. You're performing someone else's script. Think about it. How much of your daily social performance is actually authentic to who you are deep down? At work, you might put on the professional mask, always agreeable, never too emotional, constantly productive. With family, there's the good son-daughter persona, respectful, successful, meeting expectations. On social media, you curate the having it all together version of yourself. Each environment demands a different character, and somewhere along the way, you've lost track of which one is really you. It's exhausting to constantly switch between these roles, isn't it? The most damaging part of this social conditioning is how it ties your self-worth to external validation and productivity. Modern society has convinced us that we're only as valuable as our output, how much we earn, how busy we appear, how many goals we achieve. But what happens when you can't perform? When you're sick, unemployed, or simply need a break? Suddenly, you feel worthless because you've internalized the belief that your identity is inseparable from your achievements. This toxic relationship between productivity and self-value creates a never-ending cycle of burnout, where rest feels like failure and authenticity becomes a luxury you can't afford. Here's where Sartre's philosophy gets absolutely mind-blowing. The self you've been carrying around your entire life isn't actually a fixed, permanent thing. It's more like a mental construction project that's constantly under renovation. Think of consciousness as a flowing river that never stops moving, always existing in the present moment. What we call the self or ego is just our mind's attempt to create a stable story from this ever-changing stream of experiences, thoughts, and sensations. It's like trying to take a photograph of a waterfall and claiming that single image captures the entire essence of flowing water. It's just one frozen moment of something that's inherently dynamic. This realization can be both terrifying and liberating at the same time. On one hand, it means that fixed identity you've been clinging to, your personality traits, your limiting beliefs, your past mistakes, isn't as permanent as you thought. You're not stuck being the anxious person, or the people pleaser, or the perfectionist forever, because these are just mental constructs, not your true essence. Your consciousness is constantly creating and recreating these self-concepts based on new experiences, social feedback, and personal reflection. It's like discovering that the prison you thought you were trapped in was actually made of cardboard all along. The beautiful thing about understanding this fluidity of identity is that it opens up infinite possibilities for personal transformation. If your sense of self is being shaped by your experiences and environment, then changing those inputs can literally reshape who you become. Instead of saying, "I am someone who struggles with confidence," you can recognize that confidence is just a skill that consciousness can develop through practice and new experiences. Your authentic self isn't some hidden treasure you need to dig up. It's something you're actively creating in each present moment through your choices, attention, and responses to life's challenges. Culture acts like an invisible sculptor, constantly chipping away at your consciousness to create a socially acceptable version of yourself. From the moment you're born, you're bombarded with unspoken rules about how to behave, what to value, and who you should become. In some cultures, showing emotion is seen as weakness. In others, it's considered authentic expression. These aren't universal truths, they're just the particular theater your society happens to be performing. The problem is that most people never realize they're actors in a cultural play, following a script they never consciously chose to memorize. Think about how different your personality might be if you've grown up in a completely different culture. Would you still have the same fears, the same dreams, the same definition of success? Probably not, because so much of what you consider you is actually just cultural programming. Society creates these rigid social roles and then convinces you that stepping outside them means failure or rejection. It's like being handed a costume at birth and being told you must wear it for the rest of your life, even when it no longer fits or feels comfortable. Franz Kafka captured this cultural suffocation perfectly in The Metamorphosis, where Gregor Samsa wakes up transformed into an insect. While the story seems surreal, it's actually a brilliant metaphor for what happens when someone can no longer perform their assigned social role. Gregor had been working tirelessly to support his family, defining his entire worth through productivity and sacrifice. When he could no longer fulfill these expectations, he saw himself as a burden, a grotesque creature, unworthy of love or acceptance. Sound familiar? This is what happens when we let cultural expectations define our value. We become so identified with our social performance that losing it feels like losing ourselves entirely. Here's a revolutionary idea that'll completely flip your understanding of self-love. It's not about loving your ego, your achievements, or your carefully crafted persona. True self-love, according to existentialist philosophy, is about falling in love with the present moment where your consciousness actually lives. Think about your most cherished memories, watching a sunset, laughing with a friend, helping someone in need. These moments feel so vivid and meaningful because you were fully present, completely absorbed in the experience without worrying about how you looked or what others thought. That's your consciousness in its purest form, free from the exhausting performance of social identity. The secret to genuine happiness isn't found in future achievements or past accomplishments. It's discovered when you stop trying to be someone and simply allow yourself to exist in the now. When you're truly present, there's no mental fatigue from constantly monitoring your performance or comparing yourself to others. You're not thinking about tomorrow's deadlines or yesterday's mistakes. You're just experiencing life as it unfolds. It's like the difference between watching a movie while constantly checking your phone versus being completely absorbed in the story. One leaves you drained and distracted, the other leaves you energized and fulfilled. This perspective completely transforms how we understand existential exhaustion. Instead of seeing it as a personal failure or character flaw, we can recognize it as our consciousness crying out for authenticity. Your mind is essentially saying, "I'm tired of performing, tired of pretending, tired of living according to everyone else's expectations." It's not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. Moment where your true self is demanding to be heard. When you start listening to this inner voice and honoring your need for genuine connection with the present moment, that bone-deep weariness begins to lift, replaced by a sense of aliveness you may have forgotten was possible. The path to freedom starts with a simple but radical act, taking off the masks you've been wearing for so long that you've forgotten they're not your real face. This doesn't mean becoming rude or irresponsible. It means questioning which parts of your personality are authentic expressions and which are just social programming. Start small. Notice when you're about to say something you don't really mean just to keep the peace, or when you're pretending to enjoy something because it's expected. These tiny moments of awareness are like cracks in the facade, letting your authentic self peek through. The goal isn't to shock everyone with sudden personality changes, but to gradually align your external expression with your internal truth. Watch how children, cats, or even trees exist in the world. They're not constantly second-guessing themselves or performing for approval. A child laughs when something's funny, cries when they're hurt, and explores whatever captures their curiosity without worrying about looking foolish. A cat doesn't stress about whether it's being productive enough or meeting societal expectations. It simply responds to its natural impulses and needs. This isn't about being irresponsible or selfish. It's about reconnecting with that spontaneous present moment awareness that exists beneath all your learned behaviors and social conditioning. The beautiful paradox of existentialism is that by letting go of your desperate need to be someone special, you actually become more genuinely yourself than ever before. When you stop trying to impress others or live up to impossible standards, you free up enormous amounts of mental energy that can be redirected toward what actually matters to you. You start making decisions based on your values rather than others' expectations, pursuing interests that genuinely excite you rather than what looks good on paper. This isn't about becoming a hermit or rejecting all social connections. It's about engaging with the world from a place of authenticity rather than performance anxiety. The journey of existential awakening isn't meant to be traveled alone. In fact, some of the most profound insights come from sharing these ideas with others who are asking the same deep questions about life and identity. There's something powerful about connecting with people who understand that surface-level conversations about weather and weekend plans don't satisfy the soul that's hungry for meaning. When you find a community of fellow seekers, whether it's through online forums, philosophy discussion groups, or even casual conversations with open-minded friends, you realize that your existential struggles aren't signs of personal failure, but evidence of a consciousness that refuses to accept shallow answers to life's biggest questions. These philosophical explorations work best when they're not just intellectual exercises but lived experiences that you can test and refine through real-world application. Try experimenting with moments of radical honesty, where you express what you're actually thinking instead of what you think others want to hear. Notice how it feels to make decisions based on your authentic desires rather than social expectations. Pay attention to the difference between activities that energize your consciousness and those that drain it. Each small experiment in authenticity becomes data that helps you understand the difference between your constructed ego and your essential self. The most beautiful part of this philosophical journey is discovering that existence itself is enough. You don't need to achieve anything extraordinary or become anyone special to justify your place in the universe. Your consciousness, with all its questions and contradictions, is already a miracle worth celebrating. The goal isn't to solve the mystery of existence, but to embrace it, to find peace in the uncertainty, and to live with the kind of presence that makes ordinary moments feel sacred. When you truly understand that simply being aware, simply experiencing this moment, is the greatest gift you'll ever receive, the exhaustion of constantly trying to become someone else finally begins to fade. So here's the million-dollar question. Are you ready to stop exhausting yourself trying to be the person everyone else expects you to be? Everything we've explored today comes down to one simple choice. Will you continue sleepwalking through a life that feels foreign to your soul? Or will you have the courage to embrace your authentic existence? Your existential exhaustion isn't a life sentence. It's an invitation to wake up. And every moment you spend reconnecting with your present moment awareness instead of performing for approval is an act of rebellion against a system that profits from your disconnection from yourself. I want to challenge you right now. Pick one area of your life where you've been wearing a mask and commit to taking it off this week. Maybe it's being honest about your feelings, pursuing that creative interest you've been hiding, or simply saying no to something that drains your energy. Your consciousness is calling you home to yourself. So will you answer?